This is Living Power with Hurst.
So God, in the passage in Matthew, Jesus gives this example of prayer. And that's what I want us to take a look at. We call it the Lord's Prayer. There are really two versions of the Lord's Prayer in the Bible. One in Matthew 6 and one in Luke 11. They're quite similar, but there are differences. And you say, well, now, why would there be differences? It's the Lord's Prayer. Well, most likely, the prayer was taught several times. Jesus was a rabbi, a teacher. That was a learned position. You weren't just all of a sudden somebody said, oh, you're a rabbi. You know, you had to literally study to get to become a rabbi. It's like going to seminary. You know, you had to study to become a rabbi. And so to have that reference to be called a teacher was certainly a placement of honor. And for Jesus to be called a rabbi, and never disputed, by the way, by the Pharisees or Sadducees, they never disputed that he was a rabbi. They knew that he was a rabbi. He was a trained rabbi. He was a teacher. Now, some people have asked, where did he train? How did he learn that? I'm going to give you my theory, and it's just my theory, and it's a good one. We often talk about the forgotten years. What happened to Jesus? The last we hear about Jesus as a boy was when he was 12 years old. He was in the temple. And then we don't hear about him until he's 33, when he starts his ministry. So what happened? What went on in that period of time? Here's what I believe. And this is just, like I said, it's just a theory, but it certainly does answer a lot of questions. There was a group of faithful, devoted Jews, a sect of Judaism called the Essenes, E-S-S-E-N-E-S, the Essenes. They lived in Qumran, known as the Qumran community. The Qumran community were the ones that hid the scrolls when Jerusalem was being destroyed back in 70 AD, and now are known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, because that's where they were found. This was a very devout sect, and they really wanted to be faithful to the Word. And they studied the Word, and it was a school, and that's where John the Baptizer went, I believe. I mean, it's pretty clear that that's where he was, based on the way he dressed, the food he ate, the things he said. They also had, and the archaeology of Qumran is pretty interesting because they practiced baptism, full submersion baptism. And they have baptismal pools in the Qumran community. It's a pretty fascinating study. And I believe that that's where Jesus went and studied. Parents would send their son often to school to study, and usually it was the oldest, and they would send them off to study, and John was one of those who went, probably, as I said, to the Essene community. And I think Jesus went there also. It would have made sense. And here's what I think begins to confirm it, for me anyway. And that is, the Essenes, they believed that there was going to be a great teacher. They referred to as the coming Messiah as the great teacher. And they would say, when the great teacher comes, the great teacher is coming. When the great teacher has blessed us, that sort of thing. And Jesus was often referred to as the great teacher. Shortly after Jesus finished his ministry, fulfilled his ministry on earth, the Essene community began to disband. There were still a few that hung around for a while. But the Essene community began to disband. And I believe the reason they began to disband was because they believed that the great teacher had come and that the great teacher was Jesus. I also believe that the early church was probably had a lot of these Essenes probably were the ones who were the beginning of the early church. All of it seems to fit. Now that's just my theory. But what it does say is that it explains why Jesus and how Jesus got to be a rabbi. And Jesus was considered a rabbi and never questioned by the other rabbis, by the Pharisees, or by the Sadducees.